Testing. All right, let's go ahead and take our seats. And we're just getting some connections going. That's good. That means you want more. Yeah, awesome, awesome. In a little bit, All right, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making those connections for a bit. And like I said, we're just getting started on those. I'm Brandon. I'm the director of the Office of Black Student Success, and excited to be with you and really even share a bit about our year. This is our first year as an office that we're wrapping up, so we're very excited about that. Just a few housekeeping things. First, thank you for taking the time to do the by hand sign-ins. That helps the library and their efforts in making sure people are coming through and get some really good training through this space. Then also thank you for taking time to sign the digital sign-in. I also have a QR code here. That digital sign-in lets us know if you're interested in following up and being a mentor, or you are interested in being a mentee and having someone mentoring you. So we want to make those connections through the Office of Black Student Success. We're very, very excited about our efforts at mentoring. Everyone who works at the Office of Black Student Success, in our job description at least 10 times, sometimes 25 times in case of my job description, it says mentoring. So we have to make sure that this is what we do. And I am not going to steal all the thunder from one of our students who's going to introduce our speaker, but I knew an expert within the Inland Empire who is outstanding at mentoring. And so I wanted to make sure that Dr. Weiston Serdan was here with us to share yet again, because she came in the fall and we're following up. Now, here's what I want folks to really think about, especially those of you who've been involved with mentoring or are thinking about being involved with mentoring. Some questions towards the end of Dr. Weiston Serdan's talk, because we've been engaging in mentoring or making those connections, whether as faculty or staff or as students, whether you've been a mentee or you've been a peer mentor, and that's been very important. I did want to call up a good colleague of ours, because we even have an event tonight. Amazing, great work is happening all across campus, and I wanted to share our friend and colleague from residential education and housing to share with us an event that's happening this evening.
All right, so hey, my name is Caprice Risby. I am the leadership coordinator for the Department of Housing and Residential Education. What I do is I hire and train our student leaders as well as advises the Residence Hall Association. I applied for a DEI grant and was able to receive funds. So I put on my own program, and it's called Edges Laid, Paths Paved, New Growth for Black Progress. Get it? Like edges, new growth, all that good stuff. So what it's going to be is just an interactive kind of like paint and sip. There's going to be mocktails, of course. There's going to be Wingstop. We're going to be giving away AirPods, affirmation cards from like a Black-owned business, a beer kit from a Black-owned business. There's going to be other things that you can pick up, like bonnets, edge brushes, wave brushes, just all those different type of things. But it's just going to be an interactive workshop for us to just get together and support our Black students. So I hope to see you there, and please spread the word to your students. It's going to be in the Coyote Village multi-purpose room, which is in our little housing area. You'll see it. We'll have like the signs and stuff like that open. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait. And thank you for reaching out to collaborate.
Of course. Yes. Yes. So I just wanted to let you know that we are very excited to experience the leadership support of the CSU, but particularly during these interesting and exciting times. Our president has been very focused, and I'm quoting him not to go too far, but to say he has doubled down on DEI and wanted to move forward with the work that we've already been doing, because it's a part of our strategic plan, and continue to do that type of work. And the Office of Black Student Success continues to grow and evolve thanks to that support from the president's cabinet all the way through. And I'll make some more specific thank yous in relation to that, but I wanted us to be aware of the kind of support that the Office of Black Student Success has. So we've been focusing in on relationships and sharing resources from the Office of Black Student Success, and this has been one of our main efforts moving forward. We're excited about being able to collaborate, and I've been very upfront with folks over the next couple of years, we want to spend money in relation to these different areas. If you got an idea that's going to support students on this campus, we want to make sure that we're able to collaborate with you, use our budget towards that effort. All right, yeah, so continue, make those connections before you leave. Just a reminder there. Um, we got a video about the Office of Black Student Success, but I want to get into some of that, but I want you to know we got a video. All right. I want you to know it's a good one. Um, and we have two actually. They're brief, but they tell a little bit more about the office. And the main thing is our mentoring programs. My sense is if you're here, you got a lot of that piece. If not, then I'd love to meet with you and train you very specifically on the efforts that we have here about mentoring. So our staff, and I just want to pause and really acknowledge especially our professional staff, but definitely our student staff. So I'll start with our professional staff. Ms. Terry McCoy, if you could stand up. All the food, all the tablecloths, all the look for today. Ms. McCoy, make sure that that happens. Mr. Azinwa, if you could stand up. Ebenezer Azinwa, you can give him a hand. He's our program coordinator, and he really runs our peer mentoring program and makes sure that our students are connected and engaged with other students, whether they attend here or whether they've been admitted here, because we're actively involved in an outreach campaign. And I'll tell you a little bit more about our enrollment piece in a bit. Caught it. Wow. So thanks to the president, of course, who was the first, and I did this in order of who wanted to sign up to become faculty or staff mentors here at Cal State University San Bernardino. And I definitely have one here who's looking forward to our training. So, but I'm holding it just to give him his acknowledgement. But Dr. Tomas Morales, Dr. Paz Oliveras, Ms. Robin Phillips, VP for Human Resources, Dr. Molly Springer, Ms. Brandy Lanes, Mr. Ray Watts, Dr. Nicole Henley, Dr. Nicole Arcady. If you're seeing some of like the leadership who's gotten involved, but also some faculty who've gotten involved. And I'm pausing here for Dr. Samuel Sudakar, who's had me come to visit his staff at least twice to encourage them to participate. And then one of his executive directors of Audit and Advisory Service, also Ms. Candy Liu, has signed up as well to be faculty or staff mentors for our students. So some folks may wonder, like, man, what kind of requirement is this? So I got to get my life right? Do I got to, readjust my schedule and all these other things? We try to help faculty or staff handle that schedule piece, connect you with the student, reduce that load. We have a 15-minute to half-hour training. It depends on kind of how we flow through it, but it's usually right at about a half hour. And then it turns into another conversation about many other things that are happening across campus so you can support students. But that training is a big part of the work that we're doing and embedded within critical mentoring. And some of y'all seen the book over there. I want to make sure I get that book to folks, especially if you came in October. Who came to our October event? I got a few folks who came to the October event. Most of y'all should have the book. I think there's only one out of four who don't have the book, but I want some of y'all to leave with the book today. And so I'll have a few opportunities to hand out that book for you on critical mentoring. So yeah, this group of folks who've signed up, we're looking to double that by the fall. So faculty, staff, connect with your friends, let them know. Now, again, going back to like how much time requirement, one this semester, because we're almost done. In the fall, 3 sessions. That's what I'm asking for, 3 sessions. That's about every other month throughout the semester. We're doing many other things with the students as well from our office, but those touch points, we're gonna get you ready for that experience with them, right? So the training, a big part of that is getting into Dr. Weiston Serdan's book, getting into some conversations around social capital, about making referrals for mental health or any other kind of good support services here on campus. And then you're set and ready to go as a faculty or staff mentor to do that work. Now, students, if you're thinking about maybe working at the Office of Black Student Success and being a peer mentor, we got some great folks here who can tell you about that, but that's going to be an exciting thing to do because, man, we got some big things happening in the fall. And I just got to show you the slide for that one. But before I do that, let me get into some mentor advice that I'm very excited about. The folks who've signed up to be faculty or staff mentors, I asked them even before they really got into it. The mindset that they were coming into it with, cultivating genuine relationships, aligning your career with your desires, strengths, and passion, and know that failure to come to help refine our path and build our muscle. So don't let fear hold you back. Try out a lot of different jobs and internships, even if they are not exactly what you want. Get to know your professors and get into a good internship program. You hear kind of the career trajectory in there. The more you know, the more you can accomplish. Don't be afraid to ask questions, seek mentors, and create your own path. As you think ahead, make sure you carefully cultivate and build your professional network. Use every opportunity you can to learn something new and to be a service. Say yes to everything. Now, this is just kind of some preliminary conversations with folks who are being trained to be mentors. By the end, we're going to have some even more enriching conversations, but I want to extend that conversation about mentoring to several other folks. Man, glad y'all are joining us. Thank you for coming. All right, so the big exciting announcement that we have is our Black Experience course that's coming this fall. And it is in conjunction with our advising student advising success and undergraduate affairs, and they've really been supportive of that effort. But that course will add on Black Experience overall. And we have a web page that says CSUSB Black Experience. A lot of folks don't know about this webpage, but it's particularly Black history coming right here from the library that they've chronicled over the years in CSUSB Black history. So we want our entering students to be a part of that CSUSB Black history development and making their own history through their own academic success plan, through their own goals, through their own connections with other students here on campus. So we're excited about that course, but what makes it unique is that they're connected with peer mentors. They're connected with faculty or staff mentors. But I got to grow that roster of faculty or staff mentors. You hear me selling that, don't you? All right. So again, we're hoping to recruit for that program. So if you know of entering students, a lot of times I know folks who work at the university, they know of at least one family who has a student who's going to come to Cal State University San Bernardino. Oh, if you didn't think you did, my daughter's coming. Mark from Outreach got a chance to meet her when we did Choose CSUSB Day. So yes, we know someone who's coming. All right. So without further ado, we're going to have Olivia Ferguson. And I'm just excited about Olivia because she has done, come on up, sis. Once she's, give her a hand. If you've seen some of our brochures, our new logo, Olivia is a big part of our media team and moving us forward in that area. And she's developed our new logo, which the Black Student Union helped us vote on and go through after we were looking at several different logos and narrow down in on our look moving forward. So we're excited. And at this time, she's going to introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. So glad to see you guys here today. So it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Torie Weiston Serdan, a powerful advocate for youth empowerment and equity. She is the founder of the Youth Mentoring Action Network and the Center for Critical Mentoring and Youth Work and has over 17 years of experience supporting marginalized youth, including Black, Latinx, and LGBTQ communities. Dr. Weiston Serdan is also the author of Critical Mentoring, a practical guide which challenges traditional mentorship models and calls for more inclusive, justice-centered practices. She writes in her book, which is one of my favorite quotes, "We cannot afford to mentor in ways that ignore race, class, gender, or other parts of young people's identities." Her work reminds us that mentoring is not just about guidance, it's also about liberation. Please join me with a round of applause in welcoming Dr. Torie Weiston Serdan. Thank you.
I heard the hype in your voice, even though it sounds like you're usually calm. I heard it. You were there. So I mean, I feel like I can do both. Are you sure? Okay. Okay. Good morning, fam. Okay. That's what we working with today? Good morning, fam. Okay, that's the energy. See, Brandon, you already know. You was ready for it. I walked in here and I saw like a former student already, and so I started feeling very teachy. So y'all gonna have to get ready for this today. I'm thankful for being invited. I appreciate you always, Dr. Gamble, for having me, for dealing with me. Terry, she has to email me several times to get something done. But I told you I'm getting an assistant. We about to be lit out here. You're gonna be surprised at the response rate. I am so thankful to be in a space where folks are dedicated to supporting young folks. Every day that I can be in spaces like this, I feel happy, I feel excited, I feel joy. I feel also too a little overwhelmed because we are navigating a world that's extremely difficult at the moment. Listen, look, that's where I got some response. Said you should have led with that. And I'm being mindful. I know that I have a little bit of content that I want to bring, but I was telling my wife this morning, the work that we've been doing, especially in the last few weeks, has my spirit just very overwhelmed. So I'm trying to like calm myself, make sure my mind is prepared to deliver the message I really want to prepare to y'all, because some stuff is the academic preparation that I feel like I have to bring into a space like this, and some stuff is just the spirit saying, well, what needs to be said in these moments. And I think, again, as we're navigating the world we're in, there's a lot of chaos. And that chaos, especially because of who we are, is a direct road to exhaustion. And I keep reminding folks in every space that I'm in that this is exactly the strategy. I used to go to the campaign for Black Male Achievement, used to have annual convenings called Rumble Young Man Rumble. And it was held in Louisville. We went to the Muhammad Ali Center. It was a powerful convening of folks working with Black men and boys all over the country. And one of our leaders, Steve Vassor, I will never forget him saying that these folks had studied Ali over years, right? Because everything we were doing was sort of in that spirit. And he said, the enemy does not want to just knock you out in the first round. They want to wear you out for 9 rounds and then knock you out. And that is what we are experiencing in this moment. This starting fires all over the place, creating chaos and confusion, knowing that we're going to have to run from place to place, trying to figure out what's our strategy. How do we put this fire out? How do we put that fire out? How do we deal with this? How do we deal with that? That's exactly what they want us to be doing. And that's how they will knock us out in that final round. And so I know that folks have mixed views on this in terms of political engagement and activism, and where you stand is where you stand. I'm not here to tell folks exactly how to do their work, but I do think that we have to be mindful that because that is the strategy, we cannot just fall into that. So we have to be thoughtful and intentional in the way that we are moving in this moment, so as not to get to that last round and be so tired that we can't fight back. That might be the whole word. But I think that that's particularly important because we know that the kind of work that's happening here, I was surprised when you said we're going to have a whole course. I was like, y'all still got money for that? I thought but we know that this kind of work is under attack. We know that even if they don't officially and politically cut it off, that there's still going to be attacks in different ways because folks don't want us to win. Part of the reason for this white lash we're experiencing right now is that we were winning too much. And so programs like this that have contributed to our success, and not just to our success, because we've been successful historically. I don't want to take that away from us. Let me just talk about that for a minute. because folks think this is new since we got a little bit of media coverage here and there. And we got some data around our success. Our folks have been working through this mess for our entire existence. And we have historical models of excellence. So this is not new. Black PhDs are not new. Black graduates are not new. Black professionals are not new. Black teachers are not new. Okay. This is work that we have been doing despite everything that has happened to us historically. But now we got video cameras. You know, we got the gram. We got the TikTok. And we showing folks what this looks like in real time globally. And now it's a little more threatening because we can't just delete the websites. So folks see that we are making progress and have been making progress in a real way, but we also know these institutions have not been here to love us and to serve us properly, which is why we create spaces like this. We have to continue in that vein of excellence that we have always had. And I think even more so now, not be afraid to show it and talk about it and put it on display. This is the work that not only we've been doing, but this is the work our ancestors did so that we could be in this room today. One of my mentors always says, our ancestors survived because they were dreaming about us. And as time passes, we are somebody's ancestors. So we're in this moment now where we have to be, again, focused and intentional on doing our work in a legacy building way. And in the tradition of the excellence that our ancestors laid ground for. Because after this chaos, after, you know, everything dies down and we get to move forward, we have to know what we want to build. I've been saying this to folks too. While folks are destroying things in this moment, we need to be quietly figuring out what we are building. What's in place of these systems? I might say something real unpopular right here, but look, for any, and this might be just for the young folks, but for anyone who is really thinking about and trying to practice abolition in this moment, some of the work might be getting done for us in this moment. If we were really about that abolition life. So the systems might be gone, but I think the question that we've always had in this generation of abolitionists is, if those systems go away, what goes into its place? That's what it's time to build right now. They might do the heavy lifting of eliminating some of these systems we thought we wanted abolished. That's another question. But we thought we wanted abolished. The question is, what's next? And are we really prepared for that next iteration? We talk about innovations in spaces like this all the time. We talk about it. But innovation doesn't look like just building stuff. It looks like failing too. And we fail so that we can, what's the next 2.0, 3.0, 4.0? It's time to be in that space of innovating and figuring out what is our Black future? What are our Afro futures? If we didn't like education as it existed, what's our alternative to that? If we didn't like healthcare as it existed, what is our alternative to that? If we didn't like the criminal justice system, if you want to call it that, as it existed, what's our alternative? It's time to build that now. So when the smoke clears and we rise from the ashes, we coming with something. And they ain't ready, because they ain't never ready for what we got. Okay, I might get to the slides. Okay. However, so I know I'm supposed to talk about critical mentoring a little bit, and I do want to talk about that because I want to respect and appreciate the fact that y'all are getting the book and have engaged with the book. Thank you so much for that. Oh, I didn't even introduce myself. That's me, y'all. Y'all got the bio on the table. Starting with just mentoring in general, I always focus on the idea that it is, in fact, about relationship. we use the word mentoring and we have like all of these academic professional terms that we align with mentoring, but at the heart of mentoring work is relationship building. And I tell folks every time that I'm in spaces like this, if you are working with a young person, and you think you are mentoring, but they don't like you, y'all not in a mentoring relationship. You have to be in relationship with someone, and especially young folks today, because they're not tolerating us the way they used to tolerate us, amen? We have to work hard to really build that connection and build a relationship so that there is an exchange, a reciprocity in terms of what's being taught and learned. And I think on the bigger level, in terms of how we are learning to get free together. Because it's not just about the ends of you're getting a career or an internship or a scholarship or a position. That stuff we need that. Okay, we still exist in capitalism. So I want to throw that away. But it's also about how do we jointly, collaboratively, collectively go through a process of healing and getting free alongside one another. And that is harder and deeper work. Because it's kind of easy to be like, let me hook you up with this internship. We can do that stuff. I mean, all the Black professionals in this space, that's how we got here, right? By folks helping us out. We know that work. That's work we have instinctively been doing. But I think the deeper work is trying to figure out, again, what does collective liberation look like? As we're building this relationship together and I'm trying to help you navigate these institutions, am I also trying to help you learn how to survive them, how to undermine them, how to disrupt them? Because sometimes Black professionals, we be real good for the status quo. Listen, we be real good for the status quo. And I get that because that's how we survive, right? That's how we're sitting here. But I tell folks all the time, just because you went through it does not mean young people should have to. I hear too many elders say, well, you know, that's just how it is. That's just what a PhD program is like. They gonna haze you. I don't know how many times I heard that going through my program. You might just have to deal with. So the fact that you were able to survive the trauma means I got to. What is the point of you being there ahead of me? If you ain't clean nothing up or fix it on the way. These young folks are not interested in inheriting the same systems that we have. Say that. They are not interested. And I hear too many times elders say, oh, these young folks that are lazy, they don't have the same work ethic that we had. They don't want to put in the time. They don't want to put in the effort. That is not true. They are divesting from systems that have harmed them, that don't love them, that don't care about them. They watch you give 40 years of your life and you complaining, your back hurt. I heard a pastor say in the room the other day that one of his young organizers told him, your pace is extremely unhealthy. Is this what I have to look forward to in this work? Young folks are they're not here for it. So this is not just about us telling them how to survive the same systems we've been able to survive. This is, again, about a collective liberation and a way for all of us to get free and disrupt all the ways these systems have harmed us and hurt us. And again, you're only going to be able to do that in relationship with folks. Right now, more than ever, given where we are, this local, communal, very individualized, these small groups right here, this is the tactic to win. We have to go back to the days where, I mean, Black folks, if I'm being real, we ain't never really had no government. We've always been able to create things outside of systems. So we have to recreate that. Like these spaces right here, just like being in relationship with folks, being in community with folks, building something together. walking out of this room a little freer than when we came in. This is the work, at least for the next 4 years. Lord, I hope it's only 4 years. I mean, we got to be real about this idea that, we working on a dictatorship. I don't know if we ready. We be out there cute protesting. This is another level, y'all. Homeboy might not want to leave. It ain't gonna be no protest. We're gonna have to figure this out, but I'm not here for that. So the issue really around mentoring, outside of folks not really understanding that it's about relationship, and I think also about collective liberation, is this idea that we have this very white supremacy-based hierarchical idea of what mentoring even is. I'm the elder, you're the young person, I'm the experienced person, you don't know nothing. I'm gonna tell you all the things you need to know. I'm gonna hip you on game. And what we understand about that model is A, it does not work. And B, it does not get us free. And if we talk about mentoring as something that is supposed to help young folks achieve and be successful, questioning this is actually the start. Because even as a teacher, I used to say, so you think that if we just every day talk at young folks and give them things to read and give them essays to write and tests to take, that they will magically at 18 be completely prepared to engage in society? Because taking tests, writing essays, and all those things, and I'm looking directly at a former student, we know that does not always translate into life. And so what I try to explain to mentors is you kind of have this different responsibility outside of what teachers have, right? Because teachers got to follow on some level this prescribed curriculum. But as mentors, we get the chance to really make sure that young folks have experiential learning. That's critical and key. If you're going to be free, you got to practice freedom. If you're going to get the job, you got to practice the skills that it takes to get that job. Mentoring gives us an opportunity to actually let young people act out the things that they want to be and do it in a safe space where they are allowed to fail and be supported and affirmed and taught. So mentoring is not just about the talking and the top down, like I got all the answers and you don't. It's about building together so that they can learn. What we do a lot at the Youth Mentoring Action Network, we're all about what we call youth voice, power, and choice. So young folks are constantly running their own programs, organizing them, facilitating them, getting this skill set, right? That they need to be, I was able to speak at this place. I was able to organize this whole agenda. I got guest speakers to come through. I ran this program. I did that. So that at the end of this process, they have very real practiced skills that they can use in the career place. But then also during that process, we are walking alongside each other and talking about what makes this work more courageous. What could make this work more liberatory? What if you all were having a conflict here, you dealt with it this way and it was more restorative? So chances to actually practice not just the skill set that they need to do a certain job, but to practice liberation, to practice alternative ways to do the work. That's important. But people don't like it, and I'll again reference this, because it doesn't center grown folks. And y'all, we like to be centered. We like to hold all the power. We like to do all the decision making. I don't know how many times I've been in rooms where it's a bunch of elders in the room talking about what program or curriculum they're going to write and put together and basically do to young people. Not a young person in the space. Oh, they're going to like this. I don't even hear no Kendrick in the soundtrack. Y'all on Earth, I love me some Earth, Wind, and Fire now. But the young folks ain't on that. You right. Y'all be getting the samples, and that's how y'all get hooked. She said, don't disrespect us. But see, that's gonna move me to my point of intergenerational exchange. Because as much as folks hear me and think that I'm saying that adults should get out of the way or elders should get out of the way, I am not. I am just saying that we should be in an exchange, right? So there are things that young folks will learn and understand by our modeling, right? I always say we got the original song, they got the remix. But they got to learn the original song first in order to remix it. That's critical and key. Oh yeah, Baldwin. I'll be forgetting my own slides. And this was the like the regular content. I keep just veering off into these other worlds. But I also use this quote in spaces like this too, just to remind people of how to just rethink mentoring and any youth development work. When I saw this quote from James Baldwin, I just remember, I think I was in a nonprofit space too. And I just remember thinking, I don't think folks really understand what this man is trying to say. Because he is checking us right here about how we even think about the work. Proclaiming, I am not the object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country. When we are in nonprofit spaces, service spaces, philanthropic spaces, I hear that saviorism language far too much. This assumption that these folks that we are serving, poor, Black and brown, immigrant, we have all the terms, right? They need us. We got to help them. They can't do it without us. You hear a lot of that. She said, nope. You hear a lot of that language in spaces like this. But as I reminded us at the beginning of my talk, I said, look, we have a tradition of even outside of these systems being excellent and being successful and resisting. And it is the same for other groups, queer folks, trans folks, immigrant folks, who have literally been at the heart of making sure that this country is successful, and we treat them like they are an object of missionary charity. Which is why it's important to shift our thinking from mentoring being top down to really thinking about walking alongside folks. They already have experience, they already have knowledge, they already have all of these things. It should be, how do we add to it and how do we walk alongside them? Mentoring also has to shift, and I've already been saying this, from thinking about how we help young folks just survive these systems to how do we help them thrive and how do we help them resist. If we keep thinking about mentoring as a way to pacify these systems, if we keep teaching young folks to just get by and survive, despite the ways they are being harmed by these institutions and these systems, and we don't move our mentoring in the direction of collective liberation, I'm going to be right here with you as we both get free. That is the goal. I often cite I just lost Fred Hampton. Thank you. Fred Hampton from the Black Panthers, who says, survival pending revolution. We know that there's a level of survival that we have to do in this moment. It's a both and for me. We know that some of this is necessary work. We want people to graduate, we want people to get their degrees, we want people to go be in a thriving field that works for them. We also want to make sure that they understand all the ways these systems ain't worth a damn, and to be prepared for the revolution that is forthcoming. Because one of the ways that we got ourselves in this situation was folks thought these systems were working too good for them. So when folks start asking, oh, how do we get all these Black and brown people who, kind of went to the, listen, y'all, privilege, a little bit of safety in certain areas, right? A little bit of, they're not impacted. I have too many conversations with with Black professionals and Black middle-class people about what education should look like. We in rooms talking to each other, knowing dang well our kids are going to be good. And we are not talking about what Black folks who are actually existing in poverty and have all of these other challenges, what their young folks might need in this moment. Because we done got cute kind of up here, you know, going on our little brunches, giving out our little scholarships. I love the sororities and fraternities, but y'all already know we be in our little groups. And we are not even in our own group centering those who should be at the center. Those who are closest to the pain, those who have been bucked by the system, those folks that, if we're being honest, we know if they entered the room right now, we might be a little embarrassed because we get into these spaces, act like we don't know folks. Every child, all children are all of ours, right? We got to own all of our community. And again, thinking about this collective liberation. So if we're still using mentoring to help folks just survive this system, which we know is just reinforcing the idea that the Black middle class is going to be the Black middle class and everybody else going to just be out there to fend for themselves, this is a problem. We got to think about everybody. We got to think about, again, mentoring as how do we expand all of these? How does this room get bigger? And we also have to think, if we're thinking about the 22nd century for real, we also have to be thinking about not being in this room. Where should the university be in terms of community? Should we always be asking folks to come here? Or should we sometimes be in those streets? Like I said, we done got too cute. We too cute. The work is not always here. So we have to think about what are our mentoring practices. We have to constantly be interrogating those, challenging those, questioning those, problematizing. We have to be collaborating and working alongside young folks. We have to be a voice. We have to be constantly advocating, opening doors, sometimes knocking them down, bringing young folks where they don't think young folks are supposed to be. We have to power share. I didn't hear no amens on that one. We got to power share. We can't always be concentrating the power in one space. We have to think about what it means to share access, to hear a diverse set of voices, to really thinking about what folks need. That's our work. I think I'll show some pictures too. I should send you the pictures. Just because I feel moved to do that. How much more time do I have? As much time as I need. Okay, cool. Look, y'all like, we ain't gonna be here all day. But here's our final mandate in a way, and then I'll talk to you a little bit just to show you some of the work that we've been engaged in that I hope will model what I've been talking about. We got a freedom dream. I think a lot of what has been limiting our work, mentoring, education, youth development in general, is kind of staying stuck in these antiquated models and not thinking about possibilities. We've been like, oh, well, the system works like this, so I'll just do that thing. And I think we're kind of past that point. We have to now be thinking about, again, like I said earlier, what might we build in the future? What does the future of this work really look like? And I'll just share that on Saturday. I think it was just a Google link that I sent you. On Saturday, we brought 3 teams together, the Inland Empire Community Foundation, the Youth Mentoring Action Network, which is my org, and then COPE. I don't know if any of you know about, it's called Congregations Organized for Prophetic Engagement. So they are faith-based organizers here in the region. Those 3 teams came together and we created an education equity summit. We held it at the Youth Mentoring Action Network Youth Power Hub, which I do have some pictures that I'll show you. It's a 1-acre estate that we purchased and dedicated to young folks. But people, when they first saw the concept of having a summit or a conference outdoors, they were like, you play too much. Because what are we doing? Like, you don't have breakout sessions in like little classrooms. And we were like, nah, we're gonna just mess up the whole thing. We set up revolutionary zones, and each zone, which was named after a Black feminist, so Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, Angela Davis, had a Black feminist educator who led that zone. So we had Dr. Bettina Love out, we had Dr. Yolanda Sealy Ruiz out, and we had Dr. Dina Simmons out. And we all got to rotate to those different zones. And then we ended with a community strategy session around education. What were some things that we were willing to commit to around education? And the reason we did things this way was for a couple reasons. We wanted to disrupt what a traditional conference might look like. We wanted to center the wisdom of Black feminists, because we know that if we center that wisdom, education about to be real right. Historically, okay, we know this. But also the idea that we were learning in a beautiful space, I think, is sometimes something we often miss. That the ability to be outside, getting that vitamin D, having some fresh air, being in an aesthetically pleasing space was calming. And anybody who's ever been a classroom teacher knows that the better your environment is in your classroom, the more calming and peaceful it is, the more engaging and fun it is, the better your students learn. And so some of the pictures that Dr. Gamble Dr. Gamble's going through are pictures of our youth space. That's our tree house that sits on the property. That's an area that's all California native plants. And these actually, it's grown since then. So this attracts like hummingbirds and bees and butterflies. So it's a beautiful space for young folks to sit or just walk around. This was one of our zones. This is Dr. Yolanda Sealy Ruiz, who was actually having the participants create a litany for survival, which was a beautiful exercise. Go ahead.
We had talked about Audre Lorde, and we had that during Black History Month. And so one of our professors, Dr. Aaron Brown, reviewed the film and had the discussion. And then it was a very full circle moment for me to be there to write my own poem as a result. I'm still working on it because it got deep fast, way deeper than I was ready for, but it was an outstanding experience.
Thank you. I'm so glad you were there too. In this picture, this is Dr. Bettina Love talking a lot about how we get aligned in our own communities. And she was explaining to us how so many of us are still trying to figure out how we lost. I was going to put that out there. But it's because we were not necessarily aligned in terms of our values, in terms of our willingness to fight these systems. So that was her workshop. Then we had Dr. Dina Simmons, who was talking about healing and how a lot of this work, stress, the racial trauma sits in our bodies. How do we notice it and recognize it and be prepared to heal it? And again, you see the sun, you see how melanated everybody is and how the sun was just shining. It was just beautiful, right? That was part of the space. This actually took place just yesterday. A group of 35 young folks from San Bernardino School. So I think they came from Cajon and Pacific was that the name of the high school? Pacific, yes. Came and we did a day of wellness for them, starting off with a sound bath. Then they did a masking activity to think about the masks that they wear. What's beneath the mask? What do we show folks? What don't we show folks? For what reason? And then they went from there to, now I'm trying to remember the last thing that we did. Oh, thank you. They planted, so we bought plants, and they had their own individual like pots to plant them in, and they did planting with intention. So thinking about the parallel growth between the plant and themselves and the things that they wanted to manifest and grow for themselves. And this is work that we've been doing for the last 3 years with high schools all over the Inland Empire and actually Los Angeles. But it's thinking about, the reason I wanted to share these pictures with you all is thinking about different ways to do our work. This is work, and I taught for nearly 20 years in a high school English classroom. This is work I could never have done in a classroom. Never could have happened. But this is work our babies need. And this is work our babies deserve. So that's why I started asking us questions like, what is the future of this look like? And I think I have just a couple of others. This is a beautiful moment from, we've done so much work in the last week. This was just last Thursday. This is a group of, as you can see, mostly Black and brown brothers. There's a couple of us, girls in here, but mostly Black and brown brothers. In our sound studio, we built a sound studio for young folks on our property. They are getting ready to work on an EP all around mental health and wellness. Young folks talking to young folks about struggles and how to heal and how to get free. The young folks are going to be doing that, and the elders are going to be writing a curriculum that goes alongside that gets released with the EP. But this process in and of itself is a therapeutic process. Being in the studio, thinking about what do we want to talk about? How are we going to unpack this? And we're going to talk about masculinity, for example. What does that look like? What are our concepts around that? How do we want to share that with other people? Right? That's before we get to the beat. Right? Got to have something to write about. So I had already, we had talked about this as a process. I told them we're going to bring a practitioner in to support them through this process, all of those things. But these are just, again, examples of these are possibility models. What could we do if we allowed ourselves to sort of break free from the limits of these institutions, and we did hit the streets, and we did the work our ancestors left for us to do? What's possible? What could it look like? Let's dream about that. This was the youth panel that started off the day. We didn't do nothing until young people spoke first. Not an elder touched the mic until young folks said, this is what we want. Now y'all go figure out for the rest of this conference how to do that. And it was truthful and it was honest. Thank you. And all high school students. I don't think we had one college student on that panel. Fire. And what's funny about it, actually just center them a little bit longer. What's funny about it is I'm always surprised that elders are surprised at how deep our young folks are. I'm like, that's what lets me know you don't know young people. Because if you're like, oh, they're so articulate, come, dude, are we still saying this? That part. Young folks know what they know. The reason you don't know that they're articulate or that they're deep or that they have these ideas is because you don't be listening to them. And or you're not providing spaces where they feel safe and affirmed enough to be this free. Okay, I'm running out of time.
No,
Okay.
You're doing good on time.
Yes.
You're doing good on time. I just wanted to add, because I took notes
Ooh, okay, yeah.
from the students, and this is what they said. Listen like your friend is telling you something. And the context was that adults often don't listen to young people, particularly high school or college age. So listen like your friend is actually telling you something, and then follow through on that. And then I love what they kept going with. Go watch a YouTube video, read a book if you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to listening. That's the quote.
Straight up told us. Didn't they say teachers ought to know stuff? Teachers ought to be able to learn stuff? I was like, dang, y'all just gonna check us like this out here in front of everybody? But again, people kept saying throughout the day, if I had been free enough at 14, 15, 16, if I had spaces where folks allowed me to tell my truth in this way, how evolved would we be as elders? That's a picture of the sound studio. So you saw a picture where, everybody was in there on the other side. This is a picture of the studio. One of the reasons I'm proud of this is because this is a space for young folks to tell stories musically, I should say sonically across the board. And it was so important, especially for the Inland Empire, because we're not LA, you know how that competition goes, for the Inland Empire to have a state-of-the-art space like this for young people to be able to go in and tell stories. Tired of exporting our talent to LA, that's number one. But also thinking about how important counter narrative is in this moment as they try to erase us. How important it is to reclaim our power through art and by saying what it is we need to say. And this is the other side, which is the live room. And these are not things, I also acknowledge this, these are not things I built by myself. So as we talk about being in community and finding other folks who are on this path, I definitely have to shout out my wife, who's right there, Dr. Weiston Serdan. She's a musician, and she was a music educator for 30 years, and she was the one like, we can't have a whole estate and we don't have a place for kids to make music and to learn how to do it right? So that they can get a job. How many times I've had to talk to Black and brown parents and say, stop telling your kids not to go into the arts. The entire industry is us. It's built on our art. And we telling our kids not to go make money. The entire industry, what do y'all think everybody is wearing and looking like and listening to? That's us. And we tell our kid, oh, you're not gonna make no money in the arts. Meanwhile, we got sound engineers. We got folks that, I was telling the parents, the folks that built this studio. Think about that. The folks that built the studio, the folks that wired the studio, the kid we hired to be the engineer at the studio. All of these are arts jobs that we tell our kids not to go into. I ain't gonna tell y'all how much we paid the construction people. Oh, we're dedicated to building studios. That's all we do. We're experts at building studios. Lord, yeah, y'all experts, all right. And now one of them was one of us. Should have been. Now, the folks who wired the studio, that was a little more of a mixed group, okay? But again, I have to keep reminding us as elders, see, we keep limiting our young folks' possibilities. I don't think any of us would have thought that you could have a job just building music studios or just wiring music studios. When I first started teaching, I never would have told a kid that they could have a job in content creation. That's how fast the world is moving. But our imaginations are so limited. And then we're limiting our young folks in the process. And we got to stop doing that. I'm going to take questions. Was that the last? Okay. Okay. But I wanted to show you all this because, again, folks will say, I'll do things like this, and folks will be like, oh, that sounds cute. But, like, we don't see a lot of examples of what that looks like. I'm showing y'all possibility models. When I talked earlier about innovating and just thinking through things, we've had this space for about 3 years. In that 3 years, we've done a lot of failing and then being like, that didn't work. What about this over here? How do we retool? What if we make it look like this? What if we try that? What if we build this? And the goal for us is that, again, at the end of this, right, when we rise out of the ashes and folks say, dang, now we're looking for a whole new education system because the other thing is gone, we're going to be like, hey, we got something for you. We're going to be like, bruh, man, right? We're going to be like, we got stuff. We got ideas. We got packets. We got blueprint over here. We've been working on it. I think that's important for us to do in this moment. I think we have to reclaim that ability to dream. I think we have to reclaim our radical imagination. And all of this, I know it might sound far-fetched, but all of this is directly connected to mentoring. Because as we are talking about walking alongside young folks, the more committed we are to freedom and liberation, the more committed we are to thinking outside the box and innovating, the more committed we are to futurism. We are models of that for them. And if we can't quite get there for ourselves, the least we can do is open up the space for them to be able to do better than us. Take questions. Yeah.
And I hope, yes, the microphone is on. So we're open up for questions. If anyone would like to, I see one right back here. We are recording, so folks can take part in this and any other way online.
Thanks. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I guess it's kind of a two-parter, but for one, could you expound more on what power sharing is? And then two, what are the things you would advise all of us as a collective that we can start right now doing?
So power sharing, I mean, look, if you are the person who is used to making decisions, you need to give up some of that power and allow other folks to be alongside you making those decisions. And sometimes I think with elders especially, sometimes it means kind of getting out of the way and being like, I'm going to let y'all do this, and trusting that process. And that's hard. That's hard a lot of the times. Again, I know I keep saying institutions, because I want to separate us as individuals from the institutions we have to exist in, right? I know that the way these institutions have trained us, we suffer from perfectionism. So we think if we put on a program, and I'm raising my hand too, okay? We think if we put on a program, it better be, man, if the president gonna be here, the dean is gonna be here, the provost, or it has to be like a certain way. Thank you. So in order for that to go right, I'm gonna make sure I do all the things, because I wanna make sure it turns out the way it's supposed to turn out. There's a fear of letting some of that power go, because perfectionism is like, what if the dean comes and this ain't looking the way I want it to look, right? So power sharing is also, I think, on some level, kind of getting rid of that fear and then recognizing that learning is learning, right? So if they don't get it all the way right, or they don't get it to the point that we imagined it, that's okay. That's part of the learning process. That's a part of being a mentor. In the meantime, though, they've learned an incredible amount about what it means to build something. And that's a big lesson in and of itself, right? So when I say power sharing, I mean like definitely having all the folks at the table, but young people centered, and sometimes just getting out of the way and letting young folks do their work. And I know for me, that has often looked like too, being platforming and resourcing. So I'm not at the front, but y'all, I went and got this grant because I know they're gonna let me in the door. They might not let you in the door, but I went and got the money so y'all could do this thing. Right? Or I know the people to put the platform together so that y'all can have a larger audience. Sometimes that background work is our work, while they have the power of deciding the things. Right? And then I would say one thing that you could do right now is just already situating yourself in that way of just sharing power with young folks. Just the next decision you have to make, don't make it by yourself. Ask a young person first. The next curriculum you're going to have to put together, or the next class you're going to have to teach, instead of doing what you typically do, which might put my syllabus and all this stuff, crowdsource your syllabus. First day of class, this is Sociology 101. Here are some of the basics, but here's what do y'all want to know? Some ways I've done that too is to ask for a playlist. So if like you have your syllabus separated into topics, one topic could be like the class will generate a playlist based around that topic, and they might have to explain how that song aligns or how it expresses whatever the content is. So there's all these different ways to just like disrupt and upend and just play. Play is the word. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Um, Hello.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Sierra.
Hi here.
One of my biggest questions that I have is just like from like your point of view, from like your mentors, what would you say was like your kind of like your eye opening of like this is not going to work, like this mentor is not going to work, I need somebody else? And then like what would you say like was like another part of like this person is my mentor, this is going to work, this is like a perfect match?
Yeah. I feel like I want to say I've been pretty blessed to have decent mentors. So I mean, I can't find one. I think if I found one that was trash, I probably didn't. They didn't last long. Um, I wouldn't say mentors per se, but I know that I've definitely had teachers. Maybe they thought they were playing the role of mentor, but they were just too top down, not enough play to that point. That I probably just dismissed and maybe probably didn't even let myself go to the level of like, I respect you enough to be a mentor, if that makes sense. And it probably would have been the authoritarian thing because I'm a Taurus. So, oh, dang, the react. I got one of us. Everybody else was like, oh, Taurus. But that energy is there. You kind of already come in the room feeling like a certain way. So you need people to be able to handle that. But I would say mentors, because I've been lucky enough to have mentors that have been consistent and helpful, I would think relatability, a level of softness, because I appreciate that, especially being a person that seems like such a strong leader and all that stuff. Like people don't see us as people that need like softness. So mentors that have been soft and kind. And then I would also, to the point I was making earlier, good mentors for me have been mentors that have like walked me through doors. Been like, oh, you trying to get this teaching job? I got you. Like, yeah, let me help you out with that. Mm-hmm.
I'm testing. There we go.
Thank you. I just have to say first, these are prescriptions, so don't think I'm trying to be cool. I can't see you if I take them off. I forgot my other glasses in the car.
I just thought she was cute.
I was like, I want to say thank you for the term radical imagination, because it hit me in a way of thinking, when I was a kid, how I had so much imagination and things I thought I could do. And I have a middle son he's 22, and he's into the arts and music. And I've encouraged him, but I also said, if it ain't making you money, it's a hobby. I need you to get a job. Right. And so I'm just thinking about how I can then still encourage him, like just to go in. Yeah, you're going to go to school, but maybe you go into looking at, because he does music behind, he sings and also creates, and he does the producing. So maybe I'll encourage him, look into what that, go into the producing realm and just different things. So it just gave me a different perspective of that. And then also when you said crowdsource, so I'm going to look at with my syllabus, like how I want to create. And when I go to class at one, asking my students, like, just to get more feedback for next year. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say about your son, there's so many, even music therapy, just all kinds of things. And again, I credit my wife as the musician because, I wouldn't know half the stuff. But there's so many fields in the arts that we just don't even think about. So this is one example I always give folks. Everybody thinks that when your kid wants to be a musician that they have to be Beyonce. And what I always remind folks is that Beyonce is an economy. So all the folks around Beyonce are arts. The person who does her makeup, the person who dresses her, the person who does the stage, the person who does her sound, the person who purchases her equipment, the person who manages her brand. Those are all arts related jobs. But it's because we don't specify, and we don't teach young folks, like, here's the arts. And it's like, we always say it's like this, limited, but there's all of these different things you can do in the arts. So we just have to, again, just, you know, encourage him to just look at all of those different things. Mhm.
I'll just say I feel convicted. I have a child who is an artist. She came and sang at the Black Bazaar recently. She's singing this week in Huntsville, Alabama, where she was in her prior school. She's at Cal State Dominguez now. But yes, I've wrestled with that, and Dr. Weiston Serdan has helped me to let it go. Let it go, because she's amazing. And I'm going to play some of her music later because that's why I brought it up. But yes, right here.
Hi. So I work at an institution or a school with about 350 students, and I'm a counselor there. So I guess my question is, right now, the struggle that I'm having, I'm looking to outsource a lot of mentors because the ones that are supposed to be mentors that are there is not really conducive for the students. So how do I'm doing a lot of work. I'm trying to find it for the students, but I'm also trying to find it for the adults so that they improve for the students.
Yep.
But it's a long, hard
You're doing a lot of labor, sis.
process. So I guess I'm trying to figure out like how do I go about developing the adults and still mentoring the students as well.
Yeah. Whew.
I know.
You might not like this answer, but you can do it all, sis.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to create more people to help me.
But see, but that creating, that's you. So that's a lot of work and a lot of labor for you. Now, I'm not saying put it all down, but you might have to be intentional about what you want to do. One of the things that I think I've grown as I've gotten older, I'm only 42, turning 43 next month, but as I've gotten older in this work, one of the things I recognize is like I have a lane.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to wear me out. This is my work. I'm doing this. There's other folks who are going to have to figure out how to help.
Yeah. It's hard.
I hear
avoid it
you.
when you see the students and work with them on a day-to-day, and it's
I
like
hear
they
you.
need the help.
I hear you. I was a teacher, so I've definitely felt that. As a counselor, I understand where you're coming from. One thing I want to do is I was already thinking when you said you're a guidance counselor, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things I was thinking is we have these conversations with at our spot, and our next conversations with in May is with Dr. Ian Levy. And he used to be a high school guidance counselor. Now he's a college professor, but he put he set up like a music studio in his counseling office
Mhm.
and started going through this process of mixtape creation with young folks to like help them process. You might want to be there for that because I think that would be up your alley.
Okay.
So I'll invite you to that. So that was like one of the May 31st. Yeah, May 30th. Okay, May 30th. That was the first thing I thought about. But also, I just want to encourage you to rest and make sure you take breaks and tap out because again, you can't do it all. And then you need to find your folks. If you haven't already, you need to find your folks.
I have few, but they're drained too.
See what I'm saying?
So that's why I'm trying to outsource.
Widen
bringing
that
them
scope.
to the students.
Widen that scope. And let's talk because maybe there's some space at our place where we could run some programs and stuff for you guys.
Yep. Yeah. That was our last question. It was an awesome answer.
Sorry.
No, that was perfect. Before you go, I want to get a picture with some of our students real quickly. So if we can come up towards the front here. If you are a student here at CSUSB, got to amplify those student voices and faces and places. If you can come on up. Thank you. Yes. Even my students.
Let me say this. Young people deserve the best of us so that they can be better than us. Leave with that.
You're doing good. Thank you. Let's give her another hand. Let's give all of us a bit of energy here. Yeah, Doc, so if you can get right in the middle, we're going to get a couple of good official pictures.